Here we are back to do another podcast. I am super excited to have Jake on board. We are going to talk about muscle imbalances, but first I want to give our disclosure what we are not. So this podcast is going to be based around our tips, advice, suggestions, and probably some opinions, but it will be around our education, our experience, and our training. We are not doctors, licensed nutritionists, or dietitians, but we love to have fun surrounding fitness and health. So way to go. Hey, Jake, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Catherine. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So muscle imbalances is something that's near and dear to my heart right now. I think it's actually been something that's probably been an issue for a very long time, but recently, actually a week ago today, I discovered a pretty good imbalance in my axis, my neck, the very top vertebrae in my neck. I went to a chiropractor, actually went to a class. Let me step back a little bit. A couple of weeks ago about chiropractic work. It was a fun little event with a dinner, and I learned so much about the axis and how if it is out of place or misaligned, it will impact so many different things like your digestion, your thoughts, your brain, your nerves, and how you feel, and actually life longevity. I mean, it's just pretty complex, but anyway, so I went to this thing and I was like, I might need to get this looked at. So I did. I took it a step further, got the x-rays, got an exam done, and I was completely out of balance. I've had 2 back surgeries. I've had a lot of things in my life that, I kind of look back on now and I go, how long has my axis been completely way off kilter? Who knows? Basically she went through this big long spiel that, talks about even from birth, things can get, jammed up or misaligned and can be that way for your whole life. But she proved to me that my whole body was kind of shifted. Like it appeared that one leg was even longer than the other, but it's just a complete shift where my muscles were creating an imbalance. But when you're out of balance, it will hinder or have a huge effect on movement. And also with these imbalances, I would assume that you're going to move differently and possibly, lift weight. Like that's something that I do a lot. You lift weight differently and maybe it could cause even more or bigger issues. Anyways, long story short, I got an adjustment last week. I'm on a 12-week journey. I'm really excited to talk about imbalances and get your perspective, because what I'm learning is it's a really big deal. I think that based on everything that I've researched, everybody has a little bit of an imbalance, like a stronger side, that makes sense, especially baseball players or golfers or people that have a sport where they use one side of the body more than the other are going to be more developed on one side. So, I just got really diving into this topic and really just I'm nerding out on it. I love it. So what is your take on imbalances when it comes to muscles or structure?
Well, you're right. Everybody has imbalances, and basically any deviation from proper form would be an imbalance, either lack of flexibility or strength, asymmetry in your body. And so unless you know someone who has perfect form and posture all the time, they probably have some imbalance where, like I said, some muscles not as strong or as flexible as it could be. Now that does manifest itself in things like having one leg that appears shorter than the other. I also talked to a chiropractor who said the vast majority of people have that problem. And I think that's one of the main reasons that you'll see people, I don't know which came first in this case, but you'll see people walk with a gait, like a little limp to their gait that gets exaggerated by rap stars and whatnot, but it's not good for your body, So that could either be exacerbating the shorter leg thing or it could be caused by it.
Right.
But an obvious sign of imbalance, but it is obvious if you actually realize it's an imbalance. But how many people walk like that and don't realize that their body's out of whack? Another really common imbalance is how about just most people are slightly oriented forward. They have a curve in their spine that orients forward, not backwards, not left or right in most cases. That's a major imbalance. That's from wearing backpacks when we're young and being downwardly oriented at desks and things like that. That's a major one. Other
Your
ones,
phone.
And a phone, right? Yeah, seriously. Other ones that are popular, like some people just lift their upper bodies and so their lower bodies are imbalanced, or some people just lift their abs. They don't focus on their lower back muscles. So that's a popular imbalance. But these things, not only for athletic performance or looking good, are so foundational to just well-being and feeling good on a regular basis, and having neck and back pain, like you said. And when you talked about axis, I think you just basically mean spinal alignment, right? The correct where each vertebrae is supposed to line up with the one before it. And honestly, I, I, I couldn't imagine someone who has perfect alignment all the time, and it just takes constant work. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I
What?
mean, I didn't have any symptoms in my neck. In fact, she asked me, how often do you have headaches? And I do not have headaches. I'm very, very rare. And I can usually pinpoint what the cause is. In fact, if I'm around fumes or smoke, or, maybe I have excess caffeine or no caffeine at all, any kind of swing or discrepancy or difference in between, 2 days, I'll get a headache. But very rare do I get headaches, which I'm thankful for. But commonly, she said that, headaches are a really big symptom, or a pain. And a lot of times the pain is not in the neck. The pain could be in your hip. The pain could be in your leg. The pain, because basically a misalignment of your axis, everything's connected. So it
Yeah,
could be
nerves
even be
going
in your
everywhere.
foot. Yeah, it travels. It can be, any a range of different places. But basically what it is that I'm doing is I have to, a minimum once a day for 2 minutes, I'm learning posture alignment. So I'm trying to strengthen the muscles to hold this alignment in place. So it's 12 weeks, 2 times a week that I have to go and get these alignments. And she's checking every single time to see if it holds or stays. But then I have to learn proper posture. But, and it's so funny that you say the curvature of the back, and and I see all these people looking at their phone. And when she told me that, you do have slight rounding of your shoulders, forward, I'm like, no, I don't. But now that I'm learning correct posture, and I'm doing it actually twice a day for 2 minutes, I do realize how far off my posture is. So I think it's a good thing to note and be aware of.
I didn't even realize that you hear your parents tell you that there's a correct posture, stand up straight or something, but you don't realize why it's important. And no one really breaks down to you all the aspects of it, or tells you that you should just kind of imagine your skeleton and how it would hang in space, kind of thing. But once I learned, primarily from, like, I had a track coach who taught us about running form. I took a yoga class in college, which was really great for it. And that's why I believe now that yoga is mostly just a study of alignment and moving with grace, and it's postural awareness and being present in the moment. But everyone should have a posture practice, whether it's yoga or whether it's just stretching and doing a forward, backwards, side stretches to just make sure they're evenly getting their spine to where it's supposed to be. Something that should be a part of everyone's practice. And everyone should really try to be as aware as they can in the moment of how they are moving or standing or sitting, and
Yeah.
try to get themselves in the proper alignment. Every second spent in deviation from proper alignment is going to cause problems long term. Whereas every second in alignment, especially if you can hold your alignment in a relaxed state and not be like totally tensed up to do it, is going to improve the flow of fluids throughout your body, and it's going to increase your strength in your back and your ability to be pain free and to move and stand and with grace and no pain. So I think everyone should do it. Congratulations on that. Tell me what you do for your 2 minutes. You just
So I stand up against a flat wall. My feet are with my back up against the flat wall. My feet are about 2 inches forward from the wall. Feet hip width distance. So I'll have my hips. I'll have contact with my hips against the wall, and my entire back, my shoulders. So and then my head. So the biggest thing I notice is with my shoulders, I have to kind of pinch my shoulder blades back to actually get my shoulder blades to have, or shoulders to have contact with the wall, which is probably one of the big things that I need to work on. I need to work on strengthening my back muscles, my upper back muscles, which I thought already were pretty strong. But I'm realizing that, a reverse fly is what's going to help resolve that, strengthening that, or just learning to strengthen that or stretch those muscles.
Some of those muscles are like different muscles. They're not like the ones that are responsible for big tugs of weight. They're little muscles that respond to like high reps instead of low reps, so it's really more about like trying to do it all the time rather than just getting 10 good reps a few times a week or something.
And
And it's
static
hard to
holds
do.
too. Yeah. Static
Yeah.
holds too would be good, which is basically in
What
essence
you're
what
trying to
Sheena's.
train it to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing is my head. I noticed with that stance, she's like, that's exactly how you should stand. And she says, it probably feels weird. And I'm like, yeah, it feels really weird. I feel like my head is kind of back. And, but it is true. It is from my, 10 years ago before I started my fitness and weight loss journey. And I sat at a desk for 16 years. I was hunched over a keyboard, literally hunched over a keyboard. I could feel it throughout the day, how my back would get more and more rounded as I would just hunch over this computer. So I know that it's years and years of just poor posture.
Mm-hmm. It's cumulative, but you can undo it. It just takes a concerted effort and practice and realizing that you have years of forward flexion and in improper form that you have to undo, and it's going to take years.
Right. And it was kind of interesting in Power Up Facebook community. I put a poll up a few days ago, and I was kind of curious how many hours people sit a day. And it started off within the first few hours. It was most everybody chose around 2 to 3 hours a day. But then after a couple of days, it shifted to 8 or 9 hours a day is what people are sitting. And that's huge. Sitting that long will create imbalances in definitely like what I'm having, neck, shoulders, I would assume your hips, your back, lower back as well, which is where, I had a lot of my issues is lower back. But
where most people complain about back pain and where the vast majority of adults in America have complained about back pain at some point.
But what's unique about, and I noticed it right away when I was there a week ago, when she had me stand up against the wall the first time and teaching me, this exercise is what it is. I mean, it's a static hold. I mean, for me to hold still for 2 minutes is challenging. But what I noticed immediately, and I even told her, is when I stand like this, because I always have pain. I have aches and pains all over my body. But I noticed immediately the pains in my hips were gone. For 2 minutes. So that pressure, because she had already done the alignment on my neck, but by standing that way, standing up against that wall for 2 minutes, it was 2 minutes of pain relief.
Yep. Your body has a way of telling you what it wants you to do.
Which is crazy because, if I go to a general doctor and if I go and I don't, but if I go to a general doctor and tell them I'm having hip pains, guess what they give you?
Some opiates or something,
or muscle relaxers,
NSAIDs
right?
or something.
Yeah, and does no good, right? It's just going to cover up those symptoms and give you more problems with your liver, your kidneys, and everything
Treating
else.
the symptoms, not the cause.
Right. So I found this to be a huge eye opener. I was like, man, how long have I been dealing with this? I mean, obviously I had a herniated disc severely. Surgeries were necessary and required, but she also pointed out in my x-rays, I don't recall which vertebrae in my neck, it's the lower ones, but they're not formed properly or correctly or changed. I guess I'm probably wording this wrong. I forget the wording that she used, but she's like, I can tell that you have on these vertebrae, like 3 of them, you have had in your lifetime a lot of impact on these. And part of that impact is from the misalignment. So I believe, and I've been told this years and years ago, seeing a chiropractor, that my neck is straight. But then he didn't do anything else other than tell me my neck is straight. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not a doctor. I don't know what that means.
Right.
Where she explained it, she's like, yes, you do. You have a straight neck, but we need to get the natural curve put back into it. And in order to do that, it's going to take 12 weeks, 2 times a week. And she told me, the protocol to follow. Where that chiropractor probably 15 years ago just said, hey, you got a straight neck. You should know that. And that's all he said. I'm like, well, okay, now what? But she said because of the straight neck situation or misalignment, that was causing some excess pressure and strain on those vertebrae, which created extra bone formation, which then, can lead to other issues and other pains and other problems that, I need to get this corrected. So
yeah, they told me the same thing pretty much. You have to keep me posted on how that goes because I need the same kind of treatment, I think.
Yeah. It's actually, I feel like, So this is a different chiropractor that I went to for that presentation, but so they're both very young, ambitious, and they're specializing in this upper cervical spine health. And that's, you know, when I went to that class and I heard that information, I was like, wow, this is really interesting how it affects your thyroid. It affects all your organs, affects your heart, you know, brain function. I mean, because all your nerves are all connected. So, you know, it really intrigued me. So that's why I sought it out. And the class that I went to was actually in Coeur d'Alene. So it's a bit of a drive. So that's why I sought somebody out locally. But she's young, she's incredible. And, you know, I mean, one adjustment, I mean, for 48 hours, I felt like a train hit me. I'll warn you,
Right?
it's not fun. I mean, I didn't feel pain for about 3 or 4 hours. In fact, she called me 4 hours later on my cell phone and checked in with me. I didn't answer it.
Really?
I was
That's
like, who's
nice.
that?
Yeah, that's a nice thing to do. Well, we'll have to
But
do a whole show about chiropractic because that's
yeah,
interesting. And
yeah. But misalignments are a really big deal. I feel like people really need to get their bodies checked. And I know you as a personal trainer, you have the skills, the education, you have you can see misalignments. Probably when you're at the grocery store standing in line, you probably look at the person in front of you and go, yep, misalignment there,
I
misalignment
mean, I've
there.
thought about it for my clients, but I've thought about it for myself for 15 or 20 years, you know, constantly, way more than most people about every step almost, you know. So, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be or like exercising good form on a regular basis. It's just that hard to do. But I couldn't imagine where I'd be if I hadn't thought about it at all. My goodness.
Well, yeah, misalignments are going to cause injuries, right?
Pain, all kinds of things.
Mhm.
Yeah. Chronic pain. I mean,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, another one, I mean, I know I'm talking about upper cervical alignment because that's just something that's on top of my mind right now. But, you know, thinking about the opposite side of the body, your feet.
Yeah, that's a good one. And we talked about that, about the way your foot strikes the ground and the way you walk and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's all about balance. I mean, that's kind of a cliche. Life's all about balance, but your body needs it too.
Right, right. So, but yeah, I mean, that would be my suggestion is get with a personal trainer like you, because that's the first thing you do, right? You go through like health history, but you also look at their body and how they hold themselves and look for misalignments and look for corrective
Yeah, that's
ways
something I
to.
do. And that's something I feel like I specialize in, something I've been working on for a long time. So just within a few minutes, I can, you know, tell you some things probably about the way you stand and the way you move that maybe you didn't know about yourself. And you can find me at fitandhappyclub.com if you're interested in a
Yeah,
free postural or gait analysis
I
and two
like
free
that.
sessions too. So yeah, right?
Great. Yeah, gait alignment. Let me correct your gait. Relieve pain. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you know what? I would bet you somebody watching this right now has this mysterious pain on one side of their body, whether it be front, the back, the side, somewhere in their body, and they don't know why. And it could be a simple need for some exercising or some
Yeah.
stretching, and
And
you
I'm
could
cheaper
help
than
them.
a chiropractor. So, you know, it's worth a shot. I give 2 free sessions. That's incredibly cheaper than a chiropractor.
Right. Right. I totally love it. Well, this has been a great topic. Like I said, it was near
Thanks,
and dear to
Catherine.
my heart, and I felt like it was something that you and I could probably talk for hours about.
And we could just complain about our own imbalances because I got plenty bother me right now.
Oh, I know. I'm not perfect. I am not perfect at all. You know, but one of the things I do try to do, this one last tip that I want to throw out there, but one thing that I do try to do when I'm working out or lifting is I really try to isolate a lot of my workouts, meaning, you know, instead of grabbing a barbell and knocking out, you know, 3 sets or whatever, unless I'm pressed for time, I'll grab the barbell. But I like to work with dumbbells or I like to work with bands on, you know, one side at a time and equal amount of reps just to try to keep things equal on, you know, left versus right
Yeah.
side. You know, and
Symmetry.
you made a good point too about front versus back. You know, if you're
Hmm.
working out your chest, you need to work out your back, you know, keep things in balance and alignment. And all these things are very important. But yeah, I'm really big on isolated workouts.
That helps a lot. Yeah. A systematized, static approach to every little muscle in your body if you can, and dynamic, not just static too. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So stretching, working out. So, well, great. Well, good. I will put your website link underneath this video
Thank
so
you.
everybody can contact you, ask you more questions. follow you on social media and yeah, so this is all great. Love
Thanks,
it,
Catherine.
Jake. You're
Good
awesome.
job. You're awesome.
Until next time.
All right. Thanks, audience.
Bye.
Thanks, Catherine. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,